Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Untold. This is the show where we have amazing personalities, and today Lujain is no exception. We have Noor AlNaqeeb, who's a lawyer, and also get this, she's a business management. She has 2 degrees, following 2 paths, and we're going to be talking about how she kind of merged those worlds together.
I'm honestly very impressed by her dual path. Law is something that's incredibly difficult to do and to even start your own practice, which is what she did. I'm very curious to know how she managed to do this on top of also doing business as well as everything else. I'm really, really eager to hear what she has to say.
Yeah, honestly, and as someone like I previously mentioned who was studying law, I know all about the hard work that goes into it, right? It's a lot of studying, it's a lot of research, it's a lot, sleepless nights.
Wait,
So
you were studying law?
I was studying law, yes,
I had no idea. I feel like every time on the show I hear something new about you.
and because I was previously studying that, it's such a hard work. It's such a kind of profession that requires tremendous amount of mental fortitude. So it's always an honor and privilege to sit with a lawyer and to talk about all of this kind of amazing kind of decision and profession.
I actually agree. I have family members who do law. My grandfather actually has a law practice, which my aunt took over.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it is from the other side of things. And with that, I think we should take a break and see what Noor has to tell us.
And we are back with Noor AlNaqeeb, and I first want to welcome you on the Untold.
Thank you, Abdullah. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
We should just dive right in. Noor, could you tell us what drew you to a path in both law and business management?
What drew me to a path of law and business management? Okay, so basically, business came first.
Yeah.
Okay, business came first. I've always loved my opening to business was actually communications and marketing. It was back when in my early 20s. I was influenced by someone that had a online presence, and they were very advocating for communications. So I was inspired by that. So that was the introduction to enter business management. And I loved business management, but the true desire was always law as well. But I pursued it later on. And I love law because I love structure and clarity. And I think of law as like it's the rule book, basically, not just business, the rule book to business and life in general.
It is. It's the rule book of the country as well.
And you feel also empowered once you read and know a lot about the law, even if you're not a legal professional. But in general, you feel very empowered to know about your rights, your obligations, how to handle certain situations.
So I do want to ask you about that because it's a very kind of, interesting point, because business and law for the regular person, the layman, is so different in nature, right? So, and then what was your first passion? What was the passion that you found yourself in? Was it the path that led you to business, or was it law?
Okay, so basically law was always the true desire I longed for. Again, it's God's planning. We plan and plan, but ultimately God planned that I study business first for certain circumstances. But however, I'm very privileged and grateful that this happened, because studying law at an old, after business at an older age, it gave me a much more appreciation when I studied law. Some people say, no, your younger years that count. But honestly, I love studying as an adult, when you learn to appreciate what you're reading, what you're studying, the material, because you're coming from a awareness level. It's not just on basically, well, I need to study and get a degree. No, I got the degree. I got the business degree. I wasn't obligated to get another degree, but I did it out of love. I really wanted to pursue it.
That's really awesome, and I do agree with you. When you're younger, you just sort of do things because you have to, or you're experimenting and finding your right path. But when you're older, you really get to find something that you're actually passionate about and you understand it more.
Yes.
And you actually started your own practice as well.
Yes.
What led you to do that? It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. And again, يعني, when I first decided to pursue my law degree, and also at the beginning, I was kind of hesitant. Should I get my law degree or no? Because I already had a degree. But again, the what if was killing me. So I said, no, I will get it. I felt very satisfied after I got it. But the decision to pursue a law degree came with also the decision to open my own law firm.
So at
So
the
that
same
was
time.
always the goal. However, I'm not gonna lie to you, at the after I got my degree, it was everything wasn't always clear or certain. I'm telling you, the desire was born there. The desire was always there, يعني, to establish this. However, life happens. So after I graduated, I started contemplating. So obviously, by law, I need to practice law in other law firms, and I did. And there was moments that nudged me, let's say, to open my own law firm. Yes, I want to, يعني, that's definitely happened, whether it's clients and whatnot, that motivated me more to go on my own. And then the final trigger, I would say, in the more I got like more competent and mastered the craft I was trying to do, I realized that having a business degree was an advantage, and I wanted more freedom and control. I wanted to push my agenda. I wanted to يعني redefine how I deliver legal solutions to entrepreneurs, to companies, because I come from a business background, so I want to deliver it in a certain way how I see fit. So not to say that I didn't enjoy my working at other law firms. However, I'm trying to establish something on my own based on a certain, let's say, niche I'm trying to penetrate, يعني.
Yeah. And I think, the more natural question, the follow-up, and can segue into my next, question is that has your business, management skills and your business management, degree affected or, dropped into your business as a lawyer? Has
Oh
those
yeah,
two
big
worlds
time.
kind of clashed? And can you talk us through?
Clashed in a great way.
Yeah.
يعني clashed is a negative word, but clashed in a great way. Let's say there was synergy.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned, by the way. يعني this wasn't planned. Again, but I'm grateful for this plan. So my business background taught me the language of strategy, of growth, of profits, economics, finance. These fields, these verticals, aren't necessarily taught in law school. I mean, you take general educational some courses, but it's not like experience. When you work in companies, in banks, and financial sectors, you gain hands-on experience. So you see how companies are run, the ins and outs, what their problems are, employee relation problems. So after I left the corporate world and started the law firm, I serve most of my work is corporate commercial work. So I serve entrepreneurs, companies, any commercial transactions, as well as civil. I know the technical side as well. Knowing the technical side, the business side, complemented by the legal side, gave me a 360 degree on how to better serve this client in a more creative, more value-driven, efficient way.
That's honestly amazing. The fact that you were able to incorporate the best of both worlds and turn it into something that is your own, that helps you benefit clients and yourself to push yourself further. I feel like a lot of people lack the skill to be able to merge things in such a way.
It's funny you mentioned being merging. I was reading an article around that sentiment, which basically it says that, يعني, right now, obviously, I do believe in specialization highly, whatever field, whether medicine or law or whatever. But we live in an era where being fluid, it's also very critical and important as well, because by nature, يعني, humans are very dynamic. So when one person works in a certain vertical or sector industry and then moves to the next, it gives him honestly a very good advantage. I would hire him basically because he connects the dot. That was what the article was talking about. He learns to connect different fields together and connect the dots and extract insights from both fields. If you were in one field your entire life, You would be creative in that field alone. However, even if you were to continue in that field, getting another like side whatever it is, a job or even if you want to learn about certain field, learning it on your own, self-education, might actually help the field you are in, because they overlap and everything is connected, everything is relevant. It does yeah, it's about being fluid.
I agree, especially in this day and age, like you said. It's not enough to just have a special skill in one area if you can't apply those skills in other fields.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with what you
Especially
said.
transferable skills.
Yes,
that you
that's
can-
so important.
Yes.
What do you think, Abdullah?
Yeah, honestly, and I know that the production staff always hate when I bring up movies, but you remind me of a movie that talks about this exact point, is that where all of your life decisions, however the small they are, influence your,
True.
your next phase, which is Slumdog Millionaire. He kind of wins the How to Be a Millionaire by having life experiences. And speaking of movies, so my experience or my knowledge of lawyers is based on the TV show Suits. So I think that I have a lot of misconceptions about lawyers. So I do want to ask you, like, what are the people's most, common misconception they have about lawyers?
There's a lot of misconceptions, but when it comes to movies, we'll get to that maybe in a second. However, reality wise, practically, is that a lawyer is only needed when there's a problem, or only appears when there's a problem. One of the mindsets I would like to shift is that legal work is part of smart business planning. Okay, there's a lot of preventative strategies that a lawyer does. So once a problem happens, there's a whole another job to do. Okay, and that's very tedious, it grows contentious and whatnot. However, being preventative works in your favor. So any entrepreneur or a business owner should have his legal, let's say, consultant or legal in-house lawyer with him from day one, instead of waiting for a crisis to happen. So that's a great misconception in the region, arguably. Like, I have to have a case to go to court. That litigation cases, the division is called litigation. Litigation is one part of a lawyer's job. Even maybe in Kuwait, culturally, it's always, let's say, even in communications, it's the light is on the cases and litigation only. However, there's a lot of corporate advisory and transactional work a lawyer does. So he's like a consultant with the business owner. There's a lot of situations I can list on and on about how it becomes more than just a lawyer. You practically feel like you're a business partner with them, because you're dealing with them in every single thing. They want to expand to another country, they want a partner, a partner wants to leave, so they want to grow to a certain level, make investment transactions. So it's very diverse.
That does make a lot of sense as well. I do think a lot of people do have misconceptions about how preventatively talking to a lawyer can help you to prevent problems from happening in the future. It doesn't have to just be when you have a problem. I actually come from a family where my grandfather and my aunt are both lawyers, and my grandfather has a law firm as well. So I do have some idea that there is a lot more behind the scenes than people realize.
Yes, definitely.
Could you tell us more about a challenge you faced when you were doing law that maybe helped you push forward and become where you are in your career now?
Look, in general, challenges are all around, personal, professional. In your entire career, you'll face challenges. However, what I believe, let's say, accelerates the growth is taking on these challenges, embracing challenges. There's a saying, it says, growth happens when you do things you're unqualified to do.
Right.
Yeah. We're all harsh on ourselves. It's like, I need to be 100% competent to apply for X job, or 100% competent to... It's okay to be like 75%, and you'll figure it out on the job. And actually, that's where growth happens. It's when you learn to swim on your own. Challenges, we all face them. I faced plenty of challenges. I'm sure you did as well. And I'm sure you've seen your mother and your family members face these challenges. The difference is how we react and how we deal with them. But my take is embrace them, because that's where your growth happens.
Yeah.
That's how you will accelerate faster.
Yeah, and actually,
God willing, يعني.
yeah, and actually, I think science also kind of backed this up, because I was listening to Andrew Huberman, which is like a very famous, science kind of guy who's also a professor. He was talking about there is a part of the brain that actually grows if you do something that you think is challenging, or you
Yes.
do something that you're trying to run away from. So I think that's the kind of point you were talking about.
Yes.
We are going to go on a very quick break, but we'll come right back after this one. And we are back. And first, I do want to acknowledge that on the break, we were talking about something very interesting. And then I was like, okay, wait, the viewers got to know about this. So we got a little bit into what we were discussing, is that some part of your brain actually grows from, doing something challenging or doing something you don't want to do. And that's actually part of your, process to become a better person. And then you were commenting on it.
Yeah, it's basically remind me of this book. He was talking about the flow state. So it's on the same sentiment that what you're saying. It's basically not doing things that are too hard or too easy. يعني, for example, these are your capabilities. Let's say this is the level of your capability. Okay, your intellectual capabilities. If you do something too hard, that's way above your capabilities, you're gonna probably give up, and it's gonna be frustrating. If you do something too easy, you're also not gonna be happy, and you're gonna be bored. So the idea is, what he's stating is basically that it should be not too hard or not too easy, and that's what we call the flow state. When you're working for hours and you don't realize that time is passing, and that's where actually joy and growth happens. And basically, as you added, which I recently, that's how your brain, part of your brain, you said,
Yeah.
it grows.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I've heard of that study as well. It's basically you fire new neurons when you're learning the
Yes,
new things, and the more
amazing.
difficult it is, the more they have to rewire
Yes.
to work properly.
Yes, but it's the trick is that it should be in this zone. Like, in order to be sustainable, it shouldn't be like beyond it.
That makes sense, because otherwise you just give up very easily.
Yeah.
But speaking of, law is a very challenging field to be in. What would you say was the most eye-opening thing that you learned when you started doing law or arbitration?
Most eye-opening thing.
Yeah.
Wallah, to be honest with you, Lujain,
Everything? That's amazing.
everything was eye-opening. It was a whole. You mentioned movies. It felt like it felt like a movie. But in a sense that there culturally, the material, everything is eye-opening. But many counters. For example, if you want to take my take on like how human behavior, people and society. Look, you realize, being a lawyer or anyone that works in law enforcement or similar fields, first of all, you get to see the worst of human behavior. Yeah?
Yeah.
You get to see the true worst of human behavior. I always say, and I've always said the statement, I came to the realization us humans are all the same, more or less, in the sense of we all have ambition, we all have the same desires, let's say.
Yeah.
Same feelings. We get sad, we get happy. I believe when we realize all humans, we all are the same or similar, we start to have more empathy and kindness toward each other. So I've always believed in that. But now, looking at the other side of the human behavior, which is wrongful acts, it starts. You start to question, and are we really the same? Because you see, again, the worst of human behavior. But what it's made me realize is, yes, we are ultimately the same in the foundation of desires and whatnot. However, it comes down, the differentiator is our value system and the choices we make in life. He might make bad choices, another might make good choices. It all boils down to your beliefs and your value system, and ultimately which moves your decision making.
Yeah. So, what would you say is the most difficult part of being a lawyer? Because I'd imagine for a lot of people, all they see is the glamour about being a lawyer.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are, is it the pressure, the work, is it the research, the human factor? Like for you personally, what is the most difficult part of being a lawyer?
Look, in general, a lawyer's job is stressful. I'm sure you will hear this from many lawyers, okay? However, we chose this field and I chose it out of love. Many lawyers would agree that there is, let's say, stress and suffering in this pursuit, in this field. However, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. There is suffering everywhere in the world. There is stress everywhere in the world. You choose what pain, what stress you want. It's worth it to us or to me because it's meaningful. It's impactful. يعني you go to bed at night يعني satisfied with the role you're playing.
Yeah.
It's stress a lot of time, long working hours, 200-page documents. طبعا يعني one person gave me advice when I first entered the law school where I started practicing law. They told me take care of two things, your eyes and your back.
Interesting.
Yeah. At the beginning, I'm like, yeah, why? But he's like, and you're gonna read a lot of things. So basically, you need to not sit in the dark and read. Always keep the lights on, and your back because you're gonna be sitting a lot of the time. And it's very true because we do a lot of sitting, a lot of computer work, a lot of reading, documents, enormous amounts. And also there's late nights if you have investigations. Sometimes we go to the police station at night, whatever يعني. Long hours بس it's you need to, in order to enjoy it, you can't be passive يعني as a lawyer. By nature a lawyer's work is very proactive يعني. If you just go with the flow and the status quo, you might not like it as much. You need to do deliberate action to design the life you want in law. Yeah, you need to pick a legal niche. You need to leave room for joy and like to de-stress. You need to be deliberate in how you approach it to find this balance.
That's fascinating. I never thought about the strain it would cause on your eyes because, as you mentioned, there are so many legal documents and texts, and some of them are very dense and tiny, like words.
I started wearing glasses
Oh, no
and
way.
when reading, I don't wear them.
Yeah.
But when reading, I didn't realize I had like a very tiny difference. It made a difference, however.
But you also spoke that there are some moments that make law worth it for you, the moments that really define the success and the happiness and the joy.
Of course.
Could you tell us more about what makes it worth it?
Look, any client I have, I connect well with the business owners as well, and I have as well. We have criminal cases, misdemeanors. Any client that leaves our office or leaves us feeling empowered, yeah, it makes us feel satisfied, and it's worth it. So you've unburdened someone.
Yeah, that is beautiful. It's beautiful that you can help people in such a way. What do you think, Abdullah?
Yeah, honestly, I think lawyers are in the same status as doctors because every case you're dealing, it's not just a number, it's a life, right?
True.
Yeah, for you it's a case, but that person is going to go back home and the decisions they made is going to influence their entire lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't believe every case is the same or every consultation. Yani some people, okay, they get used to it, and because we get like khas experience, they say like one size fit all. I don't view it as such. I truly believe it's all in the details, and I believe no one situation is the same. Every single consultation, every single case is different. However similar from the outside or from the title you might view at first. However, no. If you truly listen intently and focus on the details, you will notice not every consultation, not every case is different. Not every case is the same, Afwan.
Yeah, you're going to find some nuances between the cases.
Of course, yes.
And I do want to ask you about something because I think in media there's something called the worldview theory.
What's that?
I'm not sure about the term, but it's something that, for a lot of people who only watch some violent TV shows, they think the world is more violent than it is. So, for example, my mom, because she's a doctor, she treated so many people from crashes. To this day, she always calls me if I'm late at night. She says, "Are you in a crash?" I'm like, "No,
Yes.
mom, I drive like an 80-year-old, person." So I want to ask you, has dealing with all of these cases, influenced how you see the world, how you deal with people outside of your work as a lawyer, or is it,
Oh,
there's a
yes.
separation between the
Oh,
worlds?
yes, definitely. And you read my mind. Yes, definitely. Of course. Look, all experiences you go through in life alters your worldview. Obviously, being a lawyer as a profession, you are exposed to other things as well that, let's say, a person that doesn't work in law isn't exposed to. Being exposed to all these information and cases or situations, scenarios, whatever it is, uh, definitely changed my worldview. And it's not a matter of good or bad, it's just a matter of truth. يعني I'm after reality. It does expand your horizon. يعني if you're wearing sunglasses, it removes your sunglasses and you see more clearly. You do view the world differently. In many cases, يعني fraud, for example, I take a lot of fraud cases. I don't know why, but apparently this let's say the victims of such there are a lot, by the way. It's more than we expect in Kuwait.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's happened, yes, especially those online scams. ف and companies sometimes that are accused of fraud. ف and they're getting more and more creative
Yeah, they
and
are.
whatnot. Even though obviously I have a good head on my shoulders and I think I'm not prone to being scammed. However, it even taught me to be even more cautious, and my family members and my friends sometimes they do fall into these let's say fraudulent claims.
Yeah, like one of my friends who works in some of the communication, kind of companies, he said that they're now using AI to, for example, they're gonna copy my voice and then they put
Really?
into an AI and then they call my mom. And
Yes.
so the AI cries to my mom in an authentic voice, send me money, I need money, and all of that. And he says that, he swears that it's a real person. You can tell it's a real person, but it's AI.
Yeah, I think that's something, especially as technology gets more and more advanced, especially older generations are going to fall for the scams more.
Yeah.
And I think it's up to people like you to help them solve those kind of problems.
Yeah.
But speaking of, you mentioned that each case is very individual. So I would like to dive into more about you as an individual. A lot of people might only see you as a lawyer, but what's something about you they might be surprised about?
What's something about me they might be surprised about? Um, someone once told me I always surprise people. Basically, I think it applies to all of us. Everybody has layers. It's
True.
just when you get to know them, you get to discover these layers. يعني, on a superficial level or like first impressions, you might have a certain impression. The second visit, the third visit, a month, you will discover more and more things, obviously. On a personal side, obviously, that's maybe يعني private, let's say. But on a more professional side, um, I guess I'm a transparent person, but I guess I would say I love building in general because, again, I used to work in business. I love building whatever it is, a company, building a product towards growth. I love the process of a corporation growing. It energizes me. I'm good at managing and, let's say, handling such situations. I do speak that language, I guess. If I'm not sure if that's a surprise element, but يعني that's what crossed my mind.
I mean, it works. And because we are running out of time, I do want to leave you with one last question. Because, like you mentioned earlier, you're in such a niche kind of position where you follow two paths, and then both paths kind of, merge into each other. So, do you have any last words or final words to say, especially for young audiences who are now in that first path, but they want to try that second path, right? But they just have fears to go into it. They're trying to find the confidence, they're trying to find their ways. Like, do you have any last
You mean
words?
to shift in
Yeah, basically
another
following their dreams, following their passions.
following your dreams? Okay. By the way, many people around me, since I worked, I asked them this question. Almost everyone I asked had another dream. different than what they're doing. Everyone. I worked at one of the banks as a statistician. She wanted to be an OBGYN doctor. A finance professional, he said his dream was to be engineering, but his father told him to pursue finance. Many people, friends and colleagues around me, almost everyone I asked had a different desire. My take to them, I would say, first of all, anything you do in life, any decision you do, God first. يعني in however small, however big, even the tiniest decision, always God first. But He should be the ultimate determining factor in everything you do. Number two, I would say start before you're ready. You will never feel ready to jump. Just do it, because time will not make a difference. It will only make you more frustrated. And from experience, it is highly satisfying if you do it.
Thank you for joining us today. It was so wonderful to have you.
Most welcome.
I really appreciated the nuggets of wisdom you left us with and the inspired approach you have to following your passions and dreams.
Thank you.
And now we're going to go on a short break. Stay tuned.
And with that, it's the end of today's episode of The Untold. Honestly, amazing to talk with Noor. Even off camera, she was so, kind. She was so, educational, talking to us about the nuances of being a lawyer.
I agree. I think it's amazing how Noor has merged two different worlds together. And I loved her philosophy on how she approached both business and law and integrated both of those into different aspects of her life to be able to do what she does at such a high level.
Yeah, and honestly, I loved how one of the key messages of the episode is that, do the hard work, right? Do whatever you think is challenging, because it's going to grow you from inside, right? It's going to grow your inner self. And I think that's a great message in general, not just about being a lawyer or studying, law. It was just an amazing message to have. But with that being said, we have run out of time.
I agree. It was truly wonderful to see her take on the whole subject. And with that, we're going to end today's episode. And I hope you enjoyed what you learned today on The Untold, and hopefully see you next time.